So we are looking at Psalm 119. This is going to be the third of three messages. And if you could turn to, let me see here. Can we turn here? Psalm 65, verses 65 to verse 72. Verses 65 to verse 72. As mentioned, this has 22 sections. As I mentioned a couple weeks ago, this has 22 sections. Each one of the sections starts with a Hebrew letter. There's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. This particular section of 8 verses also begins with the same particular Hebrew alphabet called Tet. Let's read God's word. Do good to your servant according to your word, Lord. Teach me knowledge and good judgment, for I trust your commands. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I obey your word. You are good, and what you do is good. Teach me your decrees. Though the arrogant have smeared me with lies, I keep your precepts with all my heart. Their hearts are callous and unfeeling, but I delight in your law. It was good for me to be afflicted, so that I might learn your decrees. The law from your mouth is more precious to me than thousands of pieces of silver and gold. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, in the first message, what we talked about was God's word being an unshakable foundation. The second message was about God's loving word. That God's word gives us wisdom for life. And now in this third message, what we just read, there are 2 times that we hear the word afflicted. And it mentions in the passage that we just read something that we did not necessarily expect, and that is that affliction is seen as a good thing when it drives us towards God and His Word. Now, as you see, it's a little dark, but I think you can see that. It says, before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I obey your word. And then in verse 71, it says, it was good for me to be afflicted so that I might learn your decrees. Now, there's the verb afflicted, but it comes from the noun affliction, which means a difficult or painful circumstance. And we know that life is not without its share of afflictions. Afflictions come in all shapes and sizes, and affliction can be as small as that annoying pebble in your shoe. It can be that nasty paper cut. It can be an aggravating head cold, or as large as a major illness, the loss of a job, or a prolonged relationship that is marred by conflict. Affliction isn't something we need to look for. Sooner or later, I believe affliction finds us. And sometimes those afflictions come because we haven't been very wise in the choices we've made. Other times those afflictions come because we live in a fallen world. And we're surrounded by fallen human beings. And that affliction can come when we suffer at the actions of another person. Either actions that have been done on purpose, or actions that have been done inadvertently. sometimes we suffer not because we do wrong, we suffer affliction because we do right. And someone else doesn't like it. And so afflictions come in all shapes and sizes. And we can read that Psalm 119, the writer, it seems, and it appears, that had a lot to say about affliction, about trouble. It seems that the writer had suffered so much that he had become a bit of a sort of an expert in the field. And these two verses that we just looked at on the screen remind us that God is intimately involved in our affliction, in our troubles. And I believe that these two verses give us a panoramic view of how God is able to use our affliction to teach us His Word, to build our faith in Him so that we end up being closer to Him before the troubles begin. Now, before we look at these two verses, you might already be wondering, or you are arguing with me quietly in your mind, that even the thought of God using affliction gives the notion that He's the author of affliction. And there's absolutely no way that God could even do that. I mean, if our Heavenly Father brings us pain, then He would be an abusive parent. And so there might be some who take offense to the following statement. Suffering is one of the great instruments in God's hands to continue to reveal our dependence on Him and our hope in Him. Some might take offense to that. For some, facing excruciating pain or loss, those might be some of the sweetest words they've ever heard. For others, the same vision of God makes them sick to their stomach. So, may I say this? While it's true that we can, rattle off Romans 8, verse 28, all things work good to those who love God, nothing can separate us from God's love. We also know that in Job's situation, Satan asks God for permission to afflict Job to prove that Job will turn his back on God. Satan doesn't get the final call on that. We also know that Jesus received the most undeserved pain ever inflicted, the crucifixion. And now clearly Satan was at work. He was working through Judas to betray Jesus into the hands of murderers. However, when we read about the suffering of Christ in the Bible, we find a different person in the person of Isaiah who writes this: "Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him. He has put him in grief." So while God is not the author of sin, for it is the opposite of His character, there is always a greater purpose in everything. And so might I invite you to hold that tension in place between a God who is all about bringing shalom to His creation, a God who is holy, healing, a God who is about unconditional love, with a God who is willing to allow us to experience affliction. So with all of that being said, let's look at these two verses. "Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I obey your word." Now, before I was afflicted, I went astray. And I underline that word astray because perhaps at first glance, somebody might say, well, the word astray probably is talking about some obvious moral sin. But the word astray here really simply means to go our own way, like the proverbial sheep in Isaiah 53, verse 6, right? Like sheep, they go their own way. The psalmist means that before his troubles came, he was on top of the world, rolling down the highway of life, with the top down and the music blaring. His life was on cruise control. Things were good. His marriage was going great. His kids were doing great. His career was on the upswing. And little by little, he was reaching his goals. Now, life wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. He prayed. Not much. He read his Bible, but not with much conviction. He went through the motions, but in his heart, he felt pretty good about how things were going. And what happened was that his prosperity and things going so well had caused him to push God to the edge of life. But that all changes for him, almost it seems like in an instant. Have you ever considered how thin the line is between joy and sorrow? Between the mountaintop and the valley. In the last 24 hours, we've seen two massive shootings. One in El Paso, Texas, and one in Dayton, Ohio. We can be sure for these people affected by such a tragedy, they would say there is a thin line between joy and deep sorrow. Just one phone call, and your life is deeply shaken. That's all it takes. Just one phone call, and things are never the same. Of course, we live as if that call will never come. And we've heard comments from both witnesses from Dayton and from El Paso that they say, we would have never expected this to happen here. But it can come at any moment, and when it does, it feels like the house of cards comes tumbling down. Perhaps you know someone right now who's exactly in the place in their life as the psalmist describes. You're on cruise control, or are on cruise control right now, making unwise choices along the way now. And God doesn't seem to be part of the picture right now. Maybe He once was. But the trajectory of their life is ever so gradually taking them to an empty existence. And it's times like these, sometimes we find ourselves saying, maybe, just maybe. They need to hit rock bottom before they can come to their senses. You know, sometimes we can pray, maybe pray to that effect, praying that God would do whatever it takes, Lord, to bring that person to repentance. And if it means hitting rock bottom, Lord, do whatever it takes, hold nothing back. If it must be through pain, then let it be through pain that my loved ones may come and run to the cross of Christ. It's not easy to pray that. God, what we're saying is, God, do whatever it takes to get their attention. C.S. Lewis remarked that God tends to whisper in our pleasure, but He shouts in our pain. C.S. Lewis also said, pain is God's megaphone to rouse the sleeping world. And so what the psalmist means is that his afflictions have led him back to the Lord, where once he lived for himself, now he obeys the Lord. The second verse says this: "It was good for me to be afflicted, so that I might learn your decrees." Now look at this. It was good for me to be afflicted. How many of us would say that? I don't think we say that very easily. Affliction, by definition, is painful to endure. How can we ever call it good? That's exactly what the psalmist says about his suffering. Now, obviously, there's nothing wrong about being on the mountaintop, and we need those experiences occasionally. And we'd love to stay up there if we could. That's not reality. We know that. We know that in a world that includes pain and suffering, where bad things happen to good people, where life isn't neat or always easy or always fun. If your God is only a God of the good times or a God of the mountaintops, then that God is not the God of the Bible. The true God is often best seen in the darkness, and his presence most powerfully felt in deep times of deepest sorrow. And until hard times come, our knowledge of God and his word tends to be just eerie. You know, it's like me reading 3 books on car repair and then opening an auto repair shop downtown. I got 3 books, I read it. And when your car breaks down, wouldn't you want someone with some grease under their fingernails? And if he's too clean, it might be good to be somewhat concerned that maybe he doesn't have enough experience. I mean, give me a person who knows by experience the difference between a fuel pump and a water pump. That would be pretty handy. And when we factor God into the equation of our suffering, our affliction, things look very different. It's not that the affliction itself is less painful, or that something sad has been made happy, or that evil has somehow become good. And it doesn't mean that you would not change things if you could. But when we bring God into the equation, we look back and see, as hard as it was, that maybe it was okay and good for us to go through these hard times. Because we learn things about God and about ourselves that we would have never known otherwise. And what we learn about God is his ways are beyond our ways. And what we learn about ourselves is we are not as strong or as wise as we thought. And there's so many times our prayers in times of difficulty boil down to 3 words: change my circumstances. Change them. Change them. But while praying like that isn't wrong, it can lead us in a wrong direction. Consider this. Perhaps God has not changed your circumstances because he first wants to change you. Do you know that often God says, wait, in the Old Testament? Here's one example. Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord. And in the New Testament, Paul prays that his readers might have grace to endure and to persevere. He says this in Colossians 1, verses 11. He prays to be strengthened with all power according to his glorious might, so that you might have great endurance and patience for what you are going through at the current time. So often we want our situations to change, and sometimes God just says to us, wait, endure, persevere. And it is as we wait and endure and persevere that we learn God's word. We grow in grace. That we learn that our pain is never wasted. Now, I do want to say something to an aside. That having said all of this, there are certainly circumstances in our life that we're simply not ought to stay. Simply to stay. If they are difficult, very difficult situations. Simply for the sake of enduring and persevering. So in light of all this talk about affliction, how should we respond to the trials, troubles, and afflictions of our life? Well, here are 4 suggestions. The first one is, which is really difficult, thank God for our troubles. We know that passage from the Bible says, in everything give what? Thanks. Not in everything give complaints, or not in everything give gripes. God says, in everything give thanks. That's God's will. Now, while it does not mean that we must give thanks I missed up here. What it does mean is that there are always reasons for gratitude, no matter how grim our circumstances might seem. You know, it's good and necessary that we count our blessings. As hard as it is, there's something faith-building when you count your troubles one by one, because as you do the counting, you'll be surprised to see how God has been at work in actually bringing blessings through the troubles of life. The second one is immerse yourself in God's Word. I think that really speaks plainly and clearly to us in these verses. And everything leads us to that conclusion in Psalm 119. When you are tempted to run from the Word, run to it instead. Jump into the Bible. Read more, not less. Let your troubles drive you deep into the Word of God. And if you can't read a whole book or read a chapter, if not a chapter, just a few verses or just one verse, pray it over it, read it, cling to it. And determine with God's strength to obey the Word no matter what happens to you or around you. The third one is to have faith. Pray for faith. This means, Lord, help me not to give up. Help me not to give in. Pray that the Lord will help you to continue to believe and have faith in Him no matter what happens. And in the words of Job 13, verse 15, though He slay me, yet will I trust Him. And finally, you know, there's one reason God helps us in our time of trouble. So that when we have come through it, we will be equipped to help others in their times of trouble. Do you know that God comforts us to comfort others? Sometimes, for some of you, you might find it helpful to keep a journal, to remember the ups and downs and how God helped you in struggle, to be able to share that story with others. So let me end with this personal question. Do you find yourself in a difficult place right now? Are there circumstances in your life that you desperately want to change? Are you struggling to keep your faith intact when life seems to tumble around you? I wish I could tell you that your experience is unusual, but it isn't. For the old adage is true. Into each life some rain must fall. In a deep and profound sense, and in a way that we won't fully understand until we get to heaven, our troubles can be a gift from God. They humble us. They force us to admit our weakness and drive us to the Savior, who alone can help us. Sometimes we'll face things for which there is no earthly explanation. If I ask you to do something, let God do His work in you. Let Him do His work in you. Let Him speak to you through those trials and afflictions. May God bring us all to the place where we can say with the psalmist said, "It was good for me to be afflicted, that I have learned to increase." Let's pray. Father, this has been a difficult topic. It's difficult when we talk about afflictions. We want so desperately for our circumstances to change. And yet, God, we're reminded this morning in your word that, Lord, you often say, wait. Not now. Continue on. Persevere. The amazing thing is, God, that you walk with us. You don't hold us at arm's distance. You actually lead us and walk us through those afflictions, those struggles. And God, you build our hope and trust in you, even in the darkest situations. And so, Lord, I pray for every single person here this morning gathered, that if there's anyone, Lord, that is desperately seeking hope, God, that you would meet them and find them. And comfort them. And ultimately bring your shalom to them. So, Lord, we do all of this. I pray all this by faith. You've called us to